Okay, my name is Ricky Robertson. Several months ago I made a YouTube video talking about a swamp that existed in the Ashtynn Manor subdivision. Today is August the 13th and we just had a fairly major rain. It's been dry all summer and I'm kind of curious to show you what has happened in the area that we walked in before in my previous video, so we're going to do it again. You saw the drainage slots in the pavement, and now we're going across the field heading north to the main drainage ditch for the subdivision. Some of the pipes are underneath us that carry the rainwater off. The reason I'm doing this now is that about an hour or two ago we had a major storm come through and had kind of a cloudburst and did get some pretty heavy rain, and since it's been dry all summer that has been kind of a rarity. So we want to see what's happening now that we've got some water in the system and what it's done. So again, we had a cloudburst an hour or two ago. We've got flow coming down the main drainage ditch, and since the last video was shot, the City of Huntsville graciously came in and did some grading work on the sewer line service road that I discussed in the previous video that was ultimately blocking the drainage of this water to the local creek that is supposed to carry it down to the Tennessee River. And I am hopeful that we're going to observe that what they've done is keeping the woods much more dry than they have been in the past. I think that there will always be some swampiness in there. It will get wet, but if it has drainage, it also has the ability to get dry, and that's what we're looking for. So we're coming up on the end of the spillway here. Here are the rocks that basically exist to prevent erosion right where the water comes out. So let's see if we can find a path through this into the woods. So now this is where the water goes once it gets out of the drainage ditch, flows into the woods. And, unfortunately, as you see, causes a lot of erosion and wet wood around the trees, the bottom of the trees, and that ultimately kills the trees. So there's a tree that's pretty much a goner, and it's in fact I think already dead if you follow it all the way up to the top there. So this is the kind of thing that we were trying to arrest and stop by getting some grading work done, and hopefully that is what's occurred. Now, if you'll remember, the last time that I was in here on the previous video, I had water well over my ankles, pretty much up to my knee. And so here we are walking through the water, but as you can see, it's nowhere near as deep as it was in the previous video, which is fine, because what we want to show is that this level of water that we have right now, which is much better than what existed in the previous video, if we can show that this level of water is draining, whereas the previous time we had much more water that was not draining, if we can show that this water is draining, then we've definitely improved the situation. No matter how much area the water covers, the surface of the water makes a equally level and flat surface. So even though we've traveled 20 or 30 yards into the woods, the level of the water is the same as the level of the water back at the spillway where we started and climbed over the rocks. So again, if you've got drainage with the water at this lower level, then you've definitely improved the situation. And the City of Huntsville came over with some graders on the service line road that travels along the Arsenal boundary, and they did some grading. They graded a ditch across the service road at the location where we showed that there was an attempt at natural erosion to get across, natural drainage to get across. So they basically picked that location because that's the right spot. And here's a little treasure. We get baseballs that wash in from the park across the street. They wash down and go through the storm drain. So there's a nice baseball for my grandson who plays on one of the teams over there. He can practice with that. But again, we're still walking through the water. The water is less than it was before. It's level. And it's a very promising sign. If you look, you can see that there's definitely flow, natural flow, coming on the surface of the water here, which is a very good thing. There's a flow that's draining this water out. And so now here we're coming up on the service road once again at the location where the lowest point of the road is, and therefore drainage. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but there's a lot of tree frogs. They love the water, so the water's not entirely bad, although there are mosquitoes and some of them are getting on me right now. So anyway, now we're coming up on the area where the City of Huntsville did its grading on the service road, and it has effectively created a pool that's acting as kind of a sump right at the road. So now we're going to wade across that sump, and as you can see, now we're getting a little deeper. On the previous video, the entire pond or the entire swamp was the depth that I'm standing in right now, and not just this little sump area right by the road. So we're coming up on the location where the grading was done. And I'm about to trip on branches and drop my cell phone in the water, which isn't going to help the video very much. It looks like I'm going to make it out, and here we are back on the service road once again. And that is Hobbs Road, and cars coming off the Arsenal down there. Swing around. The road goes on down to this treatment plant of the Tennessee River. And again, the sewer line is on the right-hand side from this perspective, under the ground. So we swing back around, and now instead of the road being completely level, the City of Huntsville has come in and graded a depression or ditch. And you can see we got good flow going. And so the back part of the previous swamp, which now really is not a swamp anymore, But where we came out of the drainage ditch, we were walking through water the whole way. That represents a level of water that was less than it was before. And now we've got drainage through this ditch that the City of Huntsville cut in the road. So you can still, if you're in a vehicle, you can go across it very easily. It's just like a little dip. You come back up and you're out of it. But that grading has made a huge difference, because before we had deep water and no drainage. Now we have shallow water and drainage, so the shallow water will get even more shallow and will evaporate out much more easily. And so the ditch that they dug continues on, not only on the sump area that I walked through a second ago and the road itself, but they also continued the road here, the ditch rather. And up ahead you see a tree leaning to one side. That's the edge of the creek. So as you can see, the water in the creek is all the way up. And so the level of the water at the creek is the level of the water in the ditch, is the level of the water all the way back to the drainage area in Ashtynn Manor. And as I say, it's no longer stagnant, but there's flow into the creek. And as the creek drops, because it drops its rainwater into the Tennessee River, this water will keep flowing across the service road and into the creek and on into the Tennessee River. So bottom line, the City of Huntsville came through and dug a ditch across the service road and basically unplugged the swamp, and it looks great. It'll drain out and what's left will evaporate and dry very shortly, and it's a good thing. And I want to say thank you to all the people at the City of Huntsville that listened to me and came out here and did the work to make this happen. It's a good thing and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.